So hello and welcome. I'm Suchetna Ray. And before I begin, I would like to thank all our sponsors for making this dialogue possible. We have to remember that this is perhaps the most contextual conversation to have at this time. We are discussing how to boost credit offtake and demand in a post-COVID world, where we'll discuss three things. We'll discuss demand, we'll discuss liquidity, we'll also discuss the investment scenario in India. And before we get into the topic at hand, I just briefly introduce the topic once again. We all
Conference
know that
is being recorded.
the corona outbreak, has impacted both financial markets and consumer sentiments. And with the ongoing liquidity concerns and lockdown situation, it seems that there is more trouble perhaps brewing for the financial institution. As the clampdowns are increasing both within and outside India, we've seen that consumer mobility is, of course, becoming curtailed, and this would lead to deferral of spending, which is the biggest concern. While we expect most sectors to be impacted, this credit alert focuses on those at the front and center of the pandemic-driven disruption. This is what CRISIL has to say. CRISIL has also pointed out that the near-term liquidity is critical to ensuring confidence in timely debt servicing as businesses adjust to the fast-changing operating environment. The RBI has already responded with their interventions, and the government, for the past few days, they have been holding press conferences and they have taken several measures to inject liquidity. I was reading a recent survey which shows that in the wake of the coronavirus outbreak, over 50% of Indian companies see impact on their operations, and nearly 80% have witnessed decline in cash flows. And we have to remember that this is a critical time for the NBFCs as well. With commercial paper worth 1.6 lakh crore and NCDs worth 87,000 crore coming up for redemption by June, as cash flows dwindle and banks play hardball on extending credit. We will discuss all of that as we begin the discussion today. The topic of discussion will cover demand, liquidity, as well as investment scenario. We have to also remember that the government has extended support under two schemes. Both these schemes are aimed at creating demand for securities issued by non-bank lenders and help provide liquidity. So to analyze the post-COVID financial sector and the government's liquidity booster dose, as well as the RBI's intervention, we have with us today senior leaders from the Indian banking sector, as well as non-bank lenders and Kerala State Finance Enterprises. Welcome to all of you. It is my pleasure to welcome you once again. It's Mr. ML Das, who's joining us from SBI. He's in charge of the state of Kerala. We have with us Mr. George Alexander Muthoot of Muthoot Finance. He's the MD there. We have with us Mr. Thomas John Muthoot, who is the Group Chairman and MD of Muthoot FinCorp. We have Mr. Subramanian VP, who is from Kerala State Finance Enterprises. Welcome to all of you. There's Mr. George Joseph, the CEO and CIO of ITI Mutual Fund. And we also have Mr. Ashutosh Khajuria from the Federal Bank. He's the ED and CFO there. Welcome to all of you. And I'd like your opening comments on the topic. So the question is that there is a special fund of 30,000 crore and rupees 45,000 crore credit guarantee scheme that have been announced by the government. Do you think this is enough to quell fears of shutdown of NBFCs and microfinance companies? Do you think that all these announcements can actually bring back genuine demand for credit in the economy? And with that question, I'd like to go to Mr. John Thomas first. Sir, your opening comments.
So, thank you, Suchana. So the demand side or the supply and demand side during the lockdown, when I said supply side and demand side is on the products and services has been hampered. So there is absolutely all the factories and all the service providers were shut down. So the supply side and the demand side was affected. Now with the gradual lifting of the lockdown, I think to an extent the supply side would resume. But what is it we have to see is that whether the demand side also would improve as the relaxations go forward. What the government has to do enough to shore up the economy, shore up the demand, jumpstart the economy through interventions. I am sure that the series of announcements in the last few days would help gather momentum in the demand side. Unless there is a demand side, I don't think whether a banking or a non-banking company would able to do their part. There are one or two sectors which can immediately revive the economy. I would think would be the MSME and the retail, which would have around more than 60 million units are there from the nano enterprise to the largest format in the MSME. So if there is a demand, I think there will be a credit offtake in these sectors, which is very critical for banks and NBFCs. It's also, this sector is one of the largest employer in India. So this would also create demand within the employees of these sectors. To sum up, I would say that it is creating demand. Whatever the government does through different interventions, I think demand has to be the demand has to be shored up. So this will create a momentum in the economy. That is what I would like to say. I'll stop here and maybe join little later when others have also commented on this.
Thank you so much, John. I'll go to Mr. George Alexander. So your comments, do you think these interventions can have the capacity to bring back genuine demand into the economy?
Thank you. According to me, I feel that first the demand should be created. We should create demand. And how can we create demand? Demand can be created by putting money in the hands of the citizens of India. That is where money should go. And today, the government or whatever sector is there should ensure that people have sufficient money. The organized sector employees with the PF and ESI, actually they should be given 5,000, 10,000 rupees per month. It is the organized sector, it is their own money, PF money, ESI money is already there with the government. That will give money to the organized sector. The unorganized, everybody with a what should you say, Aadhaar card, you give them money, me 3,000 rupees credit into their account. Let the demand grow. When demand, there is no shortage of food grains in India. Today, there was a news that India's food grain is 296 million tons this year. It's a surplus year, bumper year. What are we going to do with this? Our
record stocks.
Our godowns are brimming with stock. It is excess. We don't have space to keep this. Why don't we create demand in the system? When demand comes, most of these things will automatically, when demand comes, people produce more, industries need to. Then the second point is how to sustain our MSME and industries. Yes, banks are there, but NBFCs, microfinance, etc., have a much better reach there. And how can today banks are wary of lending to these sector or to the NBFCs because of this NPA issue.
Yes.
Our NPA was 5, 10, 15 years back or 20 years back, our NPA norms were 12 months. Gradually, it came down to 9 months, 6 months, and today 3 months. For a growing economy like India or a developing economy, 90-day cycle for NPA is not practical. Or you supply something to your factory, to a big industry, they pay you after 90 days, 120 days. How can you have an NPA of 90 days? It has to be eased. Once NPA is eased, then banks, the balance sheet of the company, the balance sheet of the NBFC, balance sheet of the banks will look better. Today, banks are reluctant to lend because the moment you lend 90 days, it becomes NPA. The MSME's balance sheet goes for a toss. The NBFC's balance sheet goes for a toss. The bank is reluctant. And finally, everybody is on their head. The economic department, the CBI is on the head of the banks. Why did you give that? Why did you don't give that? So ease the norms. Give time for the industries to survive. Make it 12 months. Make it 12 months. This is a critical time. Make it 12 months. The loans will look better in the books of everybody. The borrower, the intermediary, that is the NBFC and the banks. There is no shortage of fund in India. And you print, today, no need of printing money. You put more money, it will not create an inflation. The inflation will not, maybe small inflation, but as long as there is supply in India, as I said, we are surplus in India, there is not going to be an inflation. The threat
George,
of
you're raising
inflation.
very George, you're raising very pertinent issues, and we have bankers on the panel, so I would like to take it to them,
Yeah.
to both Mr. ML Das and Mr. Khajuria. So the charge here is that while you're flush with funds, you are reluctant to lend. This is what has been the major grouse against you, that lending to lesser rated NBFCs has been the biggest problem. So we understand that there are concerns, there are regulatory hurdles that you face. You have concerns about the quality of loans. But what is the solution to this problem? How can you lend to also lesser rated NBFC? Who would want to go first, Mr. Das or Mr. Khajuria, whoever?
Well, I can take this. Good
Yes,
morning.
please.
This
Yes.
is Ashutosh Khajuria. I would say that this is not correct, that banks are reluctant in lending. Fact remains that even in the accounts where the loans have been sanctioned, the drawals have not been full. The reason is there has to be demand for that. I think when the activity has suddenly got disrupted, you do not have the same demand that used to exist pre-COVID and all. Let's appreciate that part. As regards, banks, call risk appetite on this thing, irrespective of whether it is NBFC or a manufacturing concern. Every bank has got its own risk appetite, and based on that, they take a call how much to expose bank on oneself. Like in case of our bank, we have a fairly good, very healthy NBFC, HFC portfolio. In fact, amongst the sectors, it's one of the important sectors that we look at. So it's not that, all banks uniformly, you can't brand them that they are not interested in lending to NBFC. Now it comes to rating. Now that's another thing that depends on, because for different ratings, you have a different capital consumption. And these are the norms, regulatory norms and all. If I lend to a AAA corporate or NBFC, the consumption of my capital is just 20% of the normal, because the risk weight of that particular loan account would just be 20%. For AA, it is 30%. For A, it is 50%. And for BBB, it is 100%. So, and below BBB, then more than that and all that, 150 and all that. So my point is, we have to look at whatever capital that we have got, how optimally we use it and create a credit book. And that credit book is not limited to NBFCs alone. The manufacturing sector also, that's the sector which is providing the most jobs. And NBFCs are parallelly lending. So they are, the shadow banks. So through shadow banking, they are also providing lines and all. And then bank to an extent can expose itself to a shadow bank and all. Otherwise, there could be serious problems. You saw one IL&FS and how it impacted the entire economy. So we have to look at the stability of the financial system as well. I'm not saying that banks should, just open the floodgates for NBFC financing and all that on one hand, nor do I say they should totally refrain from financing this thing. There has to be a balance to be maintained, and all factors are to be seen. Please remember, in bank's balance sheet, the net worth part, any bank, if you see, would be less than 10% of the balance sheet. Even if they are having 14% so-called capital adequacy ratio or 15% capital adequacy ratio, that 15% is just because it is on the risk-weighted assets. And when I say risk-weighted assets, your AAA becomes 20% risk weight. So if you see the, compared to the balance sheet size, 90% is public deposits and less than 10% is, your net worth and other borrowings and all. So I think we are custodians of, depositors' money, savers' money. So we have to look at, it's not that, funds are available, so you go and just lend. You have to see whether they are going to come back or not. Because ultimately, we have to pay back to the depositors with interest. And there has to be full faith. At least, depositors must have. Depositors, earlier their deposit was guaranteed to the extent of 1 lakh. Now it has been increased to 5 lakh. And the rest of them. So they should have full faith in banking system. So banking system has to be, totally protecting their money and return them with interest without any default.
Thank you, Mr. Khajuria. I'll come to Mr. Emil Das of SBI. You have now two questions. On the first question is, I'd like your opinion about the government liquidity infusion measures that they've taken. Do you think they're enough? And secondly, is what we are now debating, which is that while you have to do the balancing act, but do you think that there has to be some sort of a way that has to be found so that you can also lend to lesser rated NBFCs? Mr. Das.
Yeah, thank you, Suchetana, for giving me the time. As you know that banks are not reluctant to lend because some of the eminent panelists are having the relationship with us and they know that we are always there. In fact, you'll be surprised to know that during this lockdown period, our bank decided that 10% without this government intervention initially, that 10% we should give it 10% of working capital we should give to all the units which are banking with us. And we started approaching each and every one that you take this loan. Okay. Some of them came forward, but most of them said that I don't need it right now. When I'll need, I'll come back to you. So charging the banks that banks are elected to lend is not true. It is the other way around. We are ready to lend, but there has to be taken in the market. The second point which Mr. Khajuria has rightly pointed out that the financial stability is very, very essential that we always have to keep in mind. We have just seen the case of Yes Bank, a very robust bank, second largest private sector bank. What happened? They lent to some of the units which were not ready to repay, and there was a financial crisis. So the banks have to be prudent while lending, that is true. And we want a robust economic system in India. So this is very, very essential that banks are prudent. At the same time, I'm all for it. I think the government measures, if you see, government has taken a number of measures for giving the credit guarantee also. 30,000 crore they have earmarked for the credit guarantee. That will go a long way in enabling the banks to lend more. And the second biggest thing that the Nirmala Sitharaman did is that widening the scope of MSME, the definition part. Okay, because earlier people were happy remaining a macro unit. They didn't want to expand it to the medium enterprises because some of the concessions you will lose. So by redefining this micro and medium enterprises, she has done a great job, and I think that MSME will like to expand, and in the process, I think the economy will also grow.
Thank you, Mr. Das, for your comments. I'll come to Mr. George Joseph of ITI Mutual Funds. Sir, my question remains the same. Are the interventions by the government as well as RBI enough? I also want to ask you a question about the fact that the government's measures so far are not really fiscal measures, they're monetary measures. Because fiscal measures would also mean that the fiscal deficit perhaps target would not be met. So do you think that this is the time to perhaps forget about fiscal deficit targeting and go ahead with fiscal measures?
Good morning, Jaitra. Thank you so much, and good morning to everyone in the panel. First and foremost is that I would agree with most of the panelists. There is a demand issue which we have been seeing for some time. 2016 there was a demonetization. Post that GST and then Real Estate Act which came in, which has slowed down the economy significantly. And a lot of job losses have happened in the unorganized sector also. So organized and unorganized sector is working really in terms of the slowdown. And at that point in time, we were almost at the verge of recovery. And that's the point that COVID has hit us. Overall, there is a demand issue which we have been seeing definitely slowing down since 2016 November. Post that, whatever measures which government has come in and RBI liquidity measures, I think it's a fair bit of what we can do at this juncture. Maybe some more to improve the demand as Mr. George Muthoot was saying. I think there is a significant requirement to put money in the hands of the individuals also. So it's a balancing act which government should have done. It's only 1 lakh crore kind of total fiscal impact which is there in all the measures put together. Whereas the liquidity measures and the credit guarantee is very, very positive steps. Mainly because of the fact that banks also get a comfort to lend to the low-rated companies as well. So I think it is a reasonably good measures which has come in, but probably it is not good enough to revive the demand fully because there is a more of a credit guarantee which has been given to most of the companies, especially in the MSME segment. It's almost 50 to 60 million companies are there which are definitely into deep trouble because of this COVID-19 impact, and that has to be revived for the economy to revive. So government has thought in that direction very rightly, but maybe putting money into the hands of the individuals
Yes.
also would have spurred the demand and
Immediate demand would have been
it
spurred.
started the economy. So I would say it's a reasonable measures which has come in, but at the same time, it may not be good enough to fully recover. But at least it is in the path of recovery, I would say.
Thank you so much, George. I'll come to Mr. Subramanian VP. Your comments about the measures that we've seen so far, the RBI interventions as well as the government's liquidity-inducing measures. Your comments.
Government has already taken some fiscal stimulus measures. Okay, normally government starts and RBI also start with the bank rate policies, etc. So that banks will be getting a lot of funds. So here the issue is that whether such funds are really transferred to the concerned consumers, so that only that means rural economy should strengthen. Whether that is happening, and then only when the purchasing capacity, purchasing power of the public, common public, especially farmers, and also other people are improved, then only we can see that there is demand. Okay, as MSMEs are getting a lot of funds and for revival as well as increasing their products. So we can see that they will improve. They can also make products. They can also improve their efficiencies also. But while improving so and also making product by MSMEs and farmers and other rural areas, rural sectors, we should see that should be sold out. Their products should be sold out. So for purchasing the products by the common people, their purchasing power should be increased. Somehow we can say that rather direct beneficiary transfer (DBT) process may also be opted because the cash will directly go to the pockets of the common people. Then also the situation will improve. And of course, the steps taken by the government as well as RBI to improve the NBFCs, microfinance, and also MSMEs also are good. And gradually, in a phased manner, we can see that all the sectors, that is the financial sector, will improve slightly, and the situation will change as fast and as possible. Okay.
Okay, so there are several threads of this communication, this dialogue that has come in the first comments itself. So Mr. George Alexander says that the best thing, and some of you agree as well, to spur immediate demand, we need direct transfer of money into the hands of people. The other concern that he raised was about banks and their lending to NBFCs. On that, I would like to come to Mr. Thomas John first, and I'll come to Mr. George Alexander as well. TLTRO. The biggest problem that we saw with that window was that only very high rated NBFCs ended up taking out the entire money. The lesser rated NBFCs were really left high and dry. So, Mr. Thomas, to your mind, what could be a solution to this problem? Sir, you're on mute. We can't hear you.
Sorry.
Yes.
So I think what banks should do, it's based on their investment policy. I think banks should take steps to revise their investment policies. Today, most of the banks have policy to invest in the higher grade rated debt instruments. So I think it's an internal, maybe Mr. Das can comment on this. The internal policy for investment on these debt instruments, I think, is the one reason why they are not looking at lesser rated debt instruments. And also what Mr. Kajuria just mentioned about the risk rating on
Yes.
their capital is also another factor. I think that structural change, I think RBI should intervene again.
Right. Thank you, sir. I'll go to George Muthoot, sir, your comments on this. And also, I'd like to ask you another question along with that is that when the RBI circular came, there were clarifications that NBFCs were looking at, clarifications regarding provisioning as well as asset classification. What are your specific suggestions to that?
See, when you give a moratorium, it is just postponement of the liability by 3 months. What I still insist is that the NPA norms should be changed, should be modified. India, as it stands, developing country, the 3-month norm, 90-day norm is too rigid. It is what happens is it takes the balance sheet of the borrower or the intermediary NBFC to a toss. So then all these ratings, you won't get a better rating. How will you get a better rating when your NPA is negative? So you would first change the NPA norms and give little more helping time to the customers so their balance sheet improves, their credit rating improves, and then banks can take a bet on that. And gradually, in the next 12, 13 months, improve bring down the NPA norms. But certainly 90 days is not. So if that is done,
Conference is being recorded.
more willing to lend to NBFCs to the others. You look at the TLTRO. Nobody is taking that money because no bank is interested to lend to lesser rated NBFCs. What is the point in giving 30,000 crores, 40,000 crores? Nobody has taken out that money. Nobody has given to any NBFC as yet. Trickles only has happened. So unless the structural changes are made, the money, the intention of the government to put money in the hands of people via the NBFCs or any other intermediary is not taking place. The intentions are good, but finally it is not taking place. So some structural changes need to be made. That is what I said about this NPA classification, which will improve the balance sheet. It will improve the rating of all these borrowers. The borrowers' rating will improve. Once the borrower's rating improves, then the company's rating also improves. Then banks, as they said, their capital adequacy, etc., will be better when they lend to such NBFCs. Today, if they lend to such an NBFC, the cost of capital which they require is high. That's what the Federal Bank ED said. So that's the same thing. Finally, money should come to the people either through the NBFCs or direct. If demand picks up, everything will happen. And there is no need for us to worry about inflation today in this country. What is inflation? There is no need to worry. Let us take a bold step. There is $2 trillion is what in America is giving. It's about 500 billion, which UK is giving. We have a small company in UK, some 10, 50, 30 employees. 80% of the salary is paid by the government, credited to our account to give to the 80% for the next 3 months. USA, they are giving salary plus rent also. So that is the support they are giving. They are not looking at whether it will create inflation or so. India also should take that bold step. Looking first that let the country survive, let the people survive. Then we will look after inflation. If there is no people, there is no livelihood. Whom are you surviving?
Right, absolutely.
That is my point.
Absolutely, George. These are valid points, and these are arguments which have been raised by eminent economists as well. I would like to take that question to George Joseph of ITI Mutual Fund. You know, most experts, economists, observers believe that India is really still in a sweet spot. When you talk about inflation, that shouldn't be a consideration. But when you look at our current account, we are actually in a very good position. Oil prices are at historic lows. The commodity prices have crashed. India is a net importer, so that should help us. So what does the investment scenario really look like?
Fantastic. So if you look at today, actually the trade deficit numbers were out, and it is $0.76 billion, and this is one of the record lows which we have seen. And it was pretty much evident that the oil price had crashed, and we have seen the current account surplus situation coming in, and there is a significant improvement which has happened in that regard. What we have to remember is that India is a growing economy. From the median age perspective, India is having a fantastic demography. 29 years the median age here, whereas in China it is 39 years, and other parts of the world which are more of the developing countries, it's a much older population. So there is a significant demand generation automatically happens because there are good entrepreneurs in the country, and eventually post lockdown you will see that demand automatically picking up. Some measures from the government which has come in, and some measures in terms of fiscal boost to fiscal stimulus to or direct benefit transfer, if it is done, obviously it will increase the demand, and the recovery will be much sharper. Even otherwise also, I believe that next 1 year it is a recovery period, slow recovery period, and 1 year later, obviously if you see the IMF forecast also of growth rate, 2021-22 financial year, IMF is mentioning that 7.4% is the GDP growth for India. I strongly believe that the growth rate will be significantly better because of the base effect as well as the pent-up demand coming in. So the economy is going to do well 1 year from now for sure. And and if that is the case, this is the time to look at investments in a much more positive manner, because the markets have corrected, be it equity markets, and there is a significant amount of room for the equity markets to do well on a long-term basis. And we were anyway at the bottom of the economic cycle. So if you have to remember that when we invest at the bottom of the economic cycle, and when the equity values are significantly lower, and that's the time you will make a decent returns in the next 3 to 5 years time. Historical returns, if it is very bad, obviously it makes a best point where you can invest. And I believe that investment scenario is only brightened. Nevertheless, there is a significant issue with regard to the COVID peaking out and those problems to get sorted. But I think in a month's time, all those things will get sorted. Globally also, we have seen that COVID impact, flattening as well as, coming down. I'm pretty bullish in the general investment scenario.
Yeah.
And economy also will.
So where all do you see opportunities? That's a question coming in from our attendees as well, from the audience. Where are the opportunities, you think?
So I believe that, to play recovery in India, and looking at the FIs have pulled out money significantly from India, almost, $15 billion in the month of March. And therefore there is a significant crash happened in India. $15 billion, $7.5 billion from debt, and $7.5 billion from equity. And, I think all this money will come back. There is no other country better than India, which is having a reasonable corporate governance standards, stable government in place, and good growth prospects. So money will come back to India. And, I see the opportunities specifically in the equity space, because peak interest rate scenario, debt becomes very attractive. As a CIO of a mutual fund, I would say that this is the best time to look at equities as an asset class is the best opportunity. And there is a significant surplus situation in terms of liquidity across globe. Be it US, as Mr. George Muthoot also was mentioning, almost $2 trillion, US has pumped into the money market itself. It is like a phenomenal, amount of money which has been passed on to the investors. And that is going to benefit. The liquidity also is supportive globally, and global markets also will recover, is what I would believe. Global economy will recover, but India will definitely has a better chance to recover and grow faster.
Okay, thank you for that. There are questions coming in from our audiences. I'd like to tell one thing, that is, please don't send your questions through the chat tab. Send in your questions through the Q&A tab. I'll start taking the questions. Mr. Khajuria, I'll come to you first. It's a question very specific to Federal Bank. Are you impacted by bulk deposits? What is the situation as far as the resource side of the bank is concerned?
So, very good question. I think our bank has, by the grace of God, and the type of structure liability profile that we have got, thanks to our NRI patrons, we have a granular deposit profile. 90% of Federal Bank's deposits are retail as defined by the regulator. Up to 2 crores deposits are considered as retail. Above 2 crore, they are classified as wholesale. So we have nearly 90%, one of the, I would say, in the topmost quadrant as far as, the Indian banks are concerned. So I think, yes, what the point that you had raised, yeah, some banks got impacted. Their dependence on purchased funds means that include bulk deposits, that include certificates of deposit, and that includes, the borrowings and all. These are purchased funds. So their dependence on purchased funds was higher. And when one particular bank was in trouble, that trust deficit, just came into play, and a couple of banks really saw a flight of deposit. Their Q4 deposit growth was negative. But I think gradually they also are moving towards, moving more towards retail deposits, garnering of retail deposits, because that brings in the stability. Incidentally, this question when you have raised specifically for Federal Bank, we have been maintaining twice the required liquidity coverage ratio. The liquidity coverage ratio is 100% as per Basel norms and all. We presently are maintaining nearly 200%. In certain weeks, we have more than 200% also. So I think the composition of Federal Bank is such that 40% of our deposits are NRI deposits, and these are multiple accounts rather than a chunky single account that impacts that. So I think therefore
Conference
the
is
risk
being
of
recorded.
Okay, I'll come to Mr. Emal Das. I have a question, and there's a question from our audience as well. I'll ask my question first. My question is that there is a apprehension among various observers that this 3-month moratorium that has been granted to borrowers will actually end up seeing the number of defaulters going up. Do you agree? That's the first question. Second question, Mr. Das, is coming in from Nizar Muhammad. He's asking that, he's very happy to hear all of you financial sector heads here really and stalwarts. So his question is that, when do you see a revival in the economy, and which are the sectors where you will see the first green shoots of recovery? Mr. Emal Das, I'll go to you first before I come to the others.
Yeah, thank you so much, Suchetna. First of all, your question, this 3 months moratorium which we have given it for the back end. And at the same time, we have
Conference
also
is
allowed
being
those who
recorded.
want to pay, they should pay. Because ultimately what happens is, if you are not paying, this interest gets compounded.
Right.
So we have sent SMS to every borrower that this moratorium is already granted. Whether you want or not want, we have given it from back end to everyone. You need not apply for deferment. But if you are capable to pay, you should pay, because it will interest your interest cost will be reduced to you. Okay. So right now we are getting individually by the borrowers. So immediately I do not see a spike in NPA. And our interactions with the customers also show that yes, they are ready to pay. So immediately we are not finding it. But what will happen is, ultimately it is the income of the customers also, the units also, MSME units, or whether their economy is getting revived, or their scale of finance is coming up. It will depend on that also. So to that extent, yes, I think there could be some impact, because if that restart, takeoff of the economy doesn't happen immediately, then it is a problem for the bank, problem for the MSME units as well. So I hope that things will come up, and we'll be back to the normal once again.
Okay, I'll come to Mr. Subramanian. Sir, your comments. When do you see recovery, and which will be the first sectors to show the green shoots of recovery?
Thank you, Madam. We can see that economy is in a bad shape now. It has been recovered. We have also introduced all schemes, including moratorium also declared by the Reserve Bank of India. As already been mentioned by some participants, if we implement the moratorium also, then the EMI installment fee deferred only, then public will be getting some side time to repay the same. The issue is that our common people should be improved. They should be equipped with sufficient money. Then only we can improve our economy, and our purchasing power should be improved. KSP is one of the company concentrated in Kerala. We are doing chip business in Kerala. Immediately on as a remedial measures to support the people, common people, we have made a lot of monetary measures, supporting measures from outside. Our chip business have been were stopped for 2 months, and we have given some benefits to our customers, interest concession to our customers, apart from this moratorium announced by the government, Reserve Bank of India. And also, we have offered some concessions to clear their dues to the customers. And also, we have decided to avoid interest on the chit installment spending to our chit customers. And also, we have offered some penal interest concessions on all loan portfolios, apart from giving the offers of moratorium.
Yeah.
Then we have also announced some loan packages to the NRIs who are coming from abroad, and we have given some concessions on the interest rates also. And we are also planning to introduce some more benefit packages and loan packages also to the persons coming, and also to the local people who are facing difficulties on account of this pandemic COVID-19. So as far as our company is concerned, we are looking for Malayalis all over India, all over world even. And we have also got an NRI center business at Trivandrum, through which we are catering all Malayalis all over India and all over the world. And there also we are offering some concessions to the customers. So altogether, we have offered so many concessions and benefits, but also supporting hands to our customers to tide over this pandemic COVID-19 situation.
I have a question for you, which is not related to the pandemic really. Post the Chit Fund Act, have you seen, it was expected that the chit fund sector will see an uptick. Have you seen that?
Madam, actually, we have seen that the Chit Fund Amendment Act came in 2019.
Yeah.
There are a few interesting and support positive aspects in that Amendment Act. However, comparing to the original Chit Fund Act 1982, while it was introduced in the year of 2012, it was actually offering a lot of conditions, lot of public utility clauses. That means there was, as you know, there was a lot of fly-by-night chit operators and who were actually exploiting the private. That's why KSP was formed in the year of 1969. Still, we have already completed 50 years of service in Kerala, especially in chip business and also in some other lending and deposit business. While introducing Chit Fund Act 1982, who can do the business, what are the capital and chit salary issue, then conditions of procurement, how to conduct the chit auctions, what type of securities we can insist from the customer, and when we should pay the chit amount, etc. Now, as you very well said, Amendment Act 2019 came. As per this, I have seen some major changes, some very few major changes on that, because one is online auction. So we can, as per the 1982 Act, we should conduct the chit auctions in every month with the due intimation of the customers, and every customers will have to be probably come out to the place of auction. But this, as per this amendment, we can conduct chit auctions and all other activities by video conference, so that savvy youngsters will be interested to participate more on chit business. And another clause is that chit foreman can charge foreman's commission up to 7%, which we have not introduced. Earlier it was 5%. We are still sticking on that rate. That is enough as far as KSF is concerned. And KSF is not going to charge more on the customers. And another clause in the Amendment Act is that share of dividend.
Right.
Term dividend is redefined as discount. So public will be more comfortable to learn the term discount, and not dividend. So while enrolling in Chitti, the profit part is treated as dividend, and that now that term is modified as discount. So in Malayalam, that will be termed as Vida Parisha, but actually it is a profit share out of chip business.
Right.
Another amendment in the Amendment Act 2019 is that chip company should mention fraternity chit fund or rotating savings and credit investment along with their name. So KSB has got exemption from that. That is also good. But by and large, I consider the Amendment Act is comparatively less attractive than that of the original 1982 Act. Okay, maybe the important point like online auction procedure, and also that is very attractive. That can be extended to that is possible as per the scenario. Apart from already we have introduced this online auction in our Trivandrum-based NRI and online chit center, wherein we are conducting all activities of chits by online. Every person can participate, enroll in Chitti, remit money, and also communicate, and also take part in the chit auction through online.
Right. Thank you for your inputs, sir. Mr. Amal Das is raising his hand. Yes, sir.
Yes, Mr. Muhammad Nazir has asked one question that how much time it will take economy to revive and what are the sectors, green shoots. Okay, first of all, we presume that maybe 6 months down the line, things should be okay. And regarding the sectors that you have asked for, I think agri is very robust at the moment, agriculture. So there we can see a good turnaround. FMCG goods are in high sales. So that is another area. Health industry, pharmaceutical industry, these are in pink of health. Transport and logistics, that is going to come up in a big way. So fairly green shoots are available. I think slowly you'll see in other sectors as well.
6 months is what you're saying when you should see this. Okay. There's a question coming in from Joseph Palal. This question is for George Alexander, Mr. Thomas John, as well as SBI and Federal Bank. He's asking that as far as financial institutions are concerned, what is your outlook when lending to real estate? Mr. Thomas John, you'd like to go first? Lending to real estate.
So even before the lockdown or even before the COVID, real estate has not been doing good in India. And if you really see among the real estate, there was commercial and housing. Housing was what was very badly affected. Commercial, if the commercial had a tenant, that had a premium. But now with work from home and whatever, we are hearing that there will not be any takers for office space. I think commercial also will take a hit is what we see. But there are another thinking that there will be more use of space now with a bit of distancing in the office. So the corporates might need more space is also a kind of a something that is coming up, but we don't know. It all depends on post lockdown and 6 months down the line on real estate, commercial. Housing, like all what we are discussing, it's all demand. So we'll have to bring in demand there. Around 9 months back, FM in an announcement said stalled projects will have a kind of a intervention of 20,000 crores. What I understood recently is that there was only 11 projects all India that got that benefit because of a lot of other issues. So In fact, though a big announcement was made, 20,000 crores, around only 2,000, 10% of that got the real benefit. So interventions come, but how far it's practical is what we will have to see. And one point on this revival of sectors, I just wanted to make, whether it is 6 months or 3 months, it all depends on all of us are agreeing its demand. So unlike a natural calamity where assets and people suffer, here there is no asset or workers has been affected. It is now just reopening and starting functioning. Factories can open, they can just start production. Retailers can open up and then start selling. It's all only demand that has to be built. So I think if demand comes, sectors can open up really very fast because there is no loss of assets and people to that extent. I think that is a confidence which I think all of us should have, that sectors can open up really fast. But there are sectors like which is dependent on travel, tourism, which hospitality will take time. Otherwise, some sectors can really kickstart very, very fast because there is no loss of assets. This is what I say closely. And also, maybe government should start a campaign on, so far we were all buying essentials. Now, people should start spending on non-essentials also. So there should be a campaign. People who can afford should start looking at non-essentials because they have been postponing purchase products and services, non-essentials. So that also can kickstart the economy.
Right. I mean, when the message is out clearly that we have to learn to live with COVID. Yes. Sir, I'll come to you, George Alexander. Sir, the question is from AJ Abraham. He's asking that most banks will not lend till there is a sovereign guarantee for loans. So how do we get money for small MSMEs?
Yes, small MSMEs, thank you. Small SMEs, if they are able to prove that they have a good, viable, good project, banks or anybody would be willing to lend. But what is also required there is that they should be given a helping hand. And again, to see that they are handheld for at least 1 year, 6 months, not breathing down their neck for their for their performance, etc. Give them time, then they will revive. But again, another thing which I would like to add again here is that the demand should improve. For demand to improve, I think we all need to have self-confidence, confidence in the economy. Today, everybody is talking pessimistically. That is not happening, this is not happening, they are not giving, this is not happening. Let us talk positive things. Let us talk that when we start doing that, then people, the economy, will, as Thomas Jones said, people will start spending. Today, it is only essentials. It's not essentials. It is we should have discretionary spending also to perk up the full demand. If everybody is sitting at home, what will happen to the automobile industry? So it has to, the confidence has to come, and we as leaders should take it in their stride to do this confidence. The government is also now changed. Today you see the central government or the state government, ministers, chief ministers, prime ministers talking about economy. Actually, 1 year back, everybody used to fight and argue on so many other, today if you look, irrelevant things. But today they are all becoming businessmen-like. They are now looking at economy. They are now looking how to energize the country, how to save the economy, how to save the livelihood. I think that's a change which is coming from the government.
Economic concerns are trumping political considerations. Yes, definitely.
If government is doing that change, we as citizens also need to change our mentality, our thinking. Let us not do anything let us not say anything which is pessimistic. Let us be optimistic. I'm sure in 1 year's time, we will all be back to normal. Everything will be back to, but till then, everybody should handhold, banks should handhold, institutions should handhold, government should put money in the hands of people, then economy. When demand comes, everything follows. Everything follows. If there is no demand, nothing will happen. So create demand, put money in the hands of people, whether you give it as free money or loan money or no interest money, less interest money, put money in the hands of people. Then your builder question also will happen. Today,
Absolutely.
if there nobody has money, who is going to purchase a house?
Absolutely.
Put money in the hands of people, building will happen. And there will be demand for people, demand for buildings, building industry will happen. So that is my one and only takeaway, I should say, which people to take away from this meeting should be how to increase demand.
Okay, so Rakesh Shetty, who's an audience here, is saying that he still feels that NBFCs are not getting the necessary support, and it is a matter of concern for him, and he is urging the government to for further support to NBFCs. A question coming in for Mr. Khajuria. It is Minnie Matthew. She's a senior citizen, and her concern is that there seems to be some sort of an understanding that there'll be further rate cuts. What happens to her deposits is her question. She's a senior citizen.
So I think if she would have noticed the difference between the policy rate and the deposit rate, if you just track it, you would find that banks are cognizant of this particular thing, and they have not been cutting the deposit rates in the same proportion the way the policy rates have come down. I'll just give you an example. Presently, the repo rate is about 4.40%. 4.40%, and the actual effective policy rate is now the reverse repo rate, the rate at which banks put their money with Reserve Bank of India, which Reserve Bank had cut more in proportion to the repo rate. Repo rate is the rate at which banks borrow from RBI. So the borrowing rate for banks is 440, but lending rate by banks, because banks are flushed with liquidity, they are presently placing their money with RBI at 3.75. Now see, 3.75 banks are placing their surplus money with RBI, but they are offering to their depositors, almost all banks, 1 year deposit is close to 6%. Now this difference between 6 and 3.75 is 225 basis points. If you see the earlier days and all that, when there would hardly be a 50-60 basis points difference between the policy rate and the depositors rate. Why I use the 1 year deposit rate? Because that's the most popular bucket. If you ask any bank and ask them where exactly their maximum money term deposit lie, they would say 1 year. So I'm talking of the benchmark bucket, and that benchmark bucket is closer to 6%. So I think some banks are even giving 550, 575, but there are others who are giving 625 also. So I'm talking of the median. So I think she should be rest assured. Banks are cognizant of savers' interest, and they this is the reason why they do not drastically cut the loan rates also when the policy rates are cut, just because they want to protect the interest of the savers as well. And as I told you, 90% of the resources for banks are from savers, from public depositors and public deposits and all. They need to be taken care of and all. So that's one part. And at the same time, what she should pray, I think in one of the deliberations in Kerala, former RBI Governor Dr. Raghuram Rajan had spoken about the dosanomics and all that. And there he had explained, I think what he told was basically don't just look at the rate of interest in absolute, nominal term. See it how is it plays vis-a-vis inflation. If your inflation is at about 3%, 4% or so, I think a 6% deposit rate would be a good real rate of interest. Right now, of course, slightly, consumer price inflation is slightly higher. It's closer to 6% or so. But then I think the way production, somebody had spoken about the farm produce and talked of, bumper crop and all that. I think these things will keep the food inflation well in check. And food inflation plays the major part in total consumer price inflation, CPI. Roughly 40-45% weightage is there. So I hope, madam, your interest and all savers' interest, depositors' interest would be protected, and banks are not going to drastically cut the rates.
Right. Thank you, Mr. Khajuria. I think Minnie Mathur's question has been answered. Before I come to you, Mr. Emaldas, there's a question waiting for George Joseph. So the question for you is that what is the communication that you are putting forth to attract investment and garner trust for both debt and equity investment? He's asking this question to you, Vaibhav M, keeping in mind the Franklin Templeton incident that happened.
Yeah,
George?
so mutual funds are well-regulated entities. You know, if you see, that is one of the most transparent and well-regulated entity in the country. Same like banks regulated by RBI, you know, cities regulating mutual funds. So there is no question of any lack of regulations. It's a daily reporting of NAVs are also there. It is up to the investor who has to decide, you know, what is my risk appetite, how I want to take the risk, and accordingly place your investments. Now, when we look at the liquidity scenario, which because of which, you know, Franklin Templeton had to lock 6 funds, if you see the problem is that if you see the credit risk funds, you know, ultimately the investor is investing to the fund thinking that, you know, he's investing. Ultimately, he's giving loan to particular entities. So that is what indirectly he is doing, which in my view, it is the liquidity situation doesn't support very much for the mutual funds or to that extent for NBFCs also, because the CRR is 3% and the SLR is 21.5% for banks, which is not the case for mutual funds or NBFCs. So therefore, there is a when you are giving credit, obviously how you get the money back should be the priority. And when you are giving low-rated papers, when you have it in the portfolio, you know, obviously the chance of, you know, facing liquidity crunch, especially in the situations like what we have seen COVID-19 situation, you know, obviously you will face liquidity crunch. So to smooth
Right.
out the liquidity issue,
Mm-hmm.
Franklin has come up with these measures. But nevertheless, I would say that it is a fairly well-established, well-regulated entity, and it is there are different products in the mutual fund basket, right from 100% equity products to low weightage equity products, and at the same time in the debt side also long duration bond funds, credit risk funds, and, you know, ultra short term and, you know, they 1 day paper also is bought in the case of overnight funds. So there are plethora of products available. Depending upon your risk appetite, you have to choose the funds. And I believe that today, in the current scenario, it is to be looked at equity as an asset class has to be looked at from a long-term perspective with a 3 to 5 year window at least. And if you have a 3 to 5 year window, that is the asset class to be chosen. But if you are having you don't have that much time on your side and you want to park money for banks or mutual funds, then, you know, it
Mm-hmm.
is better to invest in the short end of the curve, you know, which is overnight funds, liquid funds, or maybe PSUs, banking and debt funds. So where the credit risk is not involved much, and you are not taking a interest rate risk as well as credit risk. So in my view, there is a, you know, industry is 25 lakh crore industry,
Right.
and my belief is that industry is yet to grow significantly in the next 10 years. Maybe it can quadruple in next 10 years is what my belief is. So there's
Mm-hmm.
a long way to go, and, you know, the penetration of equity as a segment, as a class, is very low in India, and, you know, there is a long way to go for the financial markets to penetrate. And
Right.
these are all wonderful long-term institutions which is highly regulated, so nothing to worry as such.
Thank you. Mr. George Alexander, you were raising your hand. You have something to add?
Yeah. It was about the deposit and the deposit rate, as well as the retired people who are now seeing their interest rates come down from maybe 8-9% to
Yes.
3% today. What do they do? I think one thing which government needs to do and can do was that revive the permission for NBFCs to accept deposits.
Right.
NBFCs were earlier accepting deposits; they were giving much better rates. Of course, there are always some laggards and black sheep in every industry. Because of that, it has closed. It's time that government thought of that, because banks, the rates were not go up, because we are following the economy of the Western world, where bank interest is 1%, 0.5% negative. But all of the people there invest in shares. They invest in equity. Here we don't have that equity culture. So till that time, we need to support people with their savings. If the savings are not going to equity, it has to go to deposit. If it is going to deposit, if the bank rates are very low, somebody
Mm-hmm.
who is able to offer better with a good credit or a good rating should be permitted to take deposits or NCDs, etc., so that
Right.
retired people don't get troubled. Because otherwise, today people who retire have saved 1 crore, thinking that he will be able to survive for the next 30 years. But down the line, what he sees is his income
Yes.
depleting, and inflation going up, up, up. Inflation is 6%, interest is 4%. What fantastic! You will eat away your capital in quick time. I don't know. I have all my sympathies for the retired people.
Yes, George, actually, my retired father is sitting right in front of me, and he's nodding and smiling at and agreeing with you. So I'll come to Mr. ML Das. Yes, do you have anything to say about my father who's retired and he's seeing his deposit rates go down every day?
Yes, definitely, madam. In fact, talking of a State Bank of India, we are flush with funds at the moment. Huge funds, but rate of take is less right now. As long as 1,50,000 crore, we have the surplus money at the moment.
Yes.
And right now, what is happening is that we are paying 6% plus rate of interest to the fixed depositors, but due to lack of takers, we are keeping with RBI at 3.75. So there's a clear-cut loss proposition having more of fixed deposits. But at the same time, we have alive to the situation that most of the people have raised, including your father. What will happen to the people who are retired? Because that is a genuine concern.
Yes.
And as State Bank of India, we have taken note of that. And we have a separate scheme now for the retired people, okay, where we call it, what is the name? CARE. We have a separate deposit scheme for the senior depositors, where earlier we used to give 5 basis points more interest than the normal interest rate. Now we have decided to give them 30 basis points more, that is 80 basis points more than the normal rate that you used to get. I know that it cannot be fully protected, but yes, some consolation is there that 80 basis points more they can get than the normal depositors.
Okay, we're running completely out of time, but before we wrap up, there's just one last question from Noel Kuruvilla, who's saying that Kerala ranks first in NRI remittances in India. This is a concern that's being raised for some time now, which is that the current crisis in Gulf will affect the economy, especially Kerala. So what are the measures taken by banks to cope with the situation? Mr. ML Das, the question is for you. Sir, Mr. ML Das, before we wrap up, the last question, that is, it is from Noel Kuruvilla. He's asking about the NRI remittance situation, because it is expected to take a huge hit. So what are the measures that are being taken by banks to cope with the situation? Because it will hit Kerala the most.
Yeah, yes, ma'am. In fact, we are alive to the situation that a lot of people are losing their jobs in the Gulf and coming back to Kerala, to settle down in Kerala. And keeping view in that, we have already talked to the state government and as well as the NORCA. And we have finalized a special package for those who are returning from Gulf to Kerala to settle down and start their business. The banks will support them in their business, whatever they set up. So we are approaching them, we're asking them to come to bank, we'll support you for starting a new business.
Okay, thank you very much. We've completely run out of time. It's 12:15 already, and we promised to close the discussion 15 minutes before. But thank you very much once again for all your time, panelists. We also thank our sponsors for making this dialogue possible. And so therefore, on that note, we've taken great inputs from George Alexander. There have been inputs coming in from the other panelists also about how to spur immediate demand. There have been very valuable inputs that we've taken in from all panelists, inputs about other things that the government could do, further measures that the government could take. We've also touched upon issues of sentiment recovery. We've answered questions from consumers about their fears about the financial markets, the equity market. So thank you very much. Overall, I think it's been a very productive discussion, a very interesting discussion. Thank you once again for all your time. I wish you a very happy weekend, whatever is left of it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
Thank you.